Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points. And today on the show, we are going to be talking about, I don't know, nothing really going on that I can think of. We'll be talking about the Lakers' search for a center, which continues on into the wee hours of the deadline. We'll be talking about a take that I have been kind of holding off on until we kind of got to this point. And then we will also kind of recap a really busy Wednesday and discuss the impact of all of those moves on the Lakers. Obviously, as well, if you leave a super comment over the course of the show, I'll answer those at the end of the stream as well. Quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button. Please do hit that like button and then tell your friends about the show. If you guys are watching on Twitter, head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge is where you can find the show. And then if you guys are listening in the morning via podcast, hit that subscribe button. It's available everywhere that you get your pods. Clearly, you're listening to it right now. You may as well subscribe. And then also, tell your friends. Tell your friends that you love the show. Tell your enemies that you hate it. But let's go ahead and dive on in to the couple of hits that the Lakers search for a center has taken over the course of the day and kind of update you guys on where things stand right now. So earlier today, the New Orleans Pelicans sent Daniel Tice to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They sent him in a second rounder there. The Thunder kind of bailed him out with a little bit of cap room there. The Pelicans, I believe, with that move, dipped under the luxury tax. So congratulations to Gail Benson. You have that much more money to save for the cases and the negative news that you're currently dealing with. The Thunder, it would appear, are probably going to hold on to Tice because of the injuries that Isaiah Hartenstein and Hartenstein. I never know if it's Steen or Stein, whatever it is, because of his injuries this year, because of the injury that they're still waiting for Chet Holmgren to get back from. I would imagine the Thunder are going to keep Tice, who is still solid. He's still better than Jackson Hayes. One would imagine now in this case, since the whole point of it was to get under the luxury tax threshold for the Pelicans, I don't know if the Lakers could have necessarily got there. But I know, for me personally, Tice was somebody who I mentioned last night with Raj as somebody I would like for the Lakers to add. He's a little small, but he is a mobile big, good cutter, good offensive rebounder, active kind of guy. He would fit in with the kind of athletic, fully wingy approach that the Lakers appear to be taking. So, and by the way, if you guys see me look over this way, my tweet deck is over here. So I'm just kind of keeping an eye on the news. But yeah, that was the first hit that the Lakers center search took. Over the course of the night, they also saw Jericho Sims go from the New York Knicks to the Milwaukee Bucks. I would imagine. Oh, they also saw Kelly Olynyk go from the Toronto Raptors to the New Orleans Pelicans. And I don't think he was ever really an option. He makes just a little bit too much money. He makes $12.8 million, and he has a year left on that contract beyond this year. So I don't think the Lakers are very interested in him. Chris Boucher is still a Toronto Raptor, so I would imagine Rob and Masai are probably going to have a conversation about him tomorrow. And yeah, outside of that, that's basically where things stand. Unless I've missed anybody, let me know in the comments if you think I did. But yeah, we'll go ahead and talk about why I think it's actually smart that the Lakers are playing this patient. Obviously, you miss out on Daniel Tice, you miss out on Jericho Sims, but do you really miss out on those guys? Not really. And so like for the Lakers, they're going to wait right up until the deadline to see if some of these prices drop on some of these guys. We've seen prices across the board drop, right? Brandon Ingram just went from for a first and a second pick to Toronto, and they barely even got any expiring money for him in that trade. The Warriors got Jimmy Butler for a protected first and not very much beyond that in terms of draft capital. A lot of these, like the Lakers got Luka for a first round draft pick, even though that was obviously an extraordinary circumstance. De'Aaron Fox, as I mentioned a little while ago, I think it was yesterday, the day before, went for 3 first rounders, but none of those first rounders were any good. One of them is a 2031 Minnesota Timberwolves pick when Anthony Edwards will be in the middle of his prime. Another one there is from the San Antonio Spurs, who now have Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox. So that pick isn't very valuable. And then I forget what the third one was from. Oh, the third one was a top 14 protected Charlotte Hornets pick that will turn into a second rounder in all likelihood because the Hornets are currently like the fourth worst team in the NBA. So, in terms of like the big time draft capital moves that we saw from, even a year or so ago, and especially dating back to like the Rudy Gobert year, it looks like the NBA's pick economy has really kind of settled down as a lot of these teams are really valuing that pick, that draft capital for the sake of cost controlled talent. If they are able to, draft a player who can either develop into something real down the line or help right away. So yeah, I do kind of think, to an extent, the Lakers are right to just kind of sit this out. Daron Sharp is still on the market. I know that they like him. The Lakers also have options like Robert Williams Jr. I know people are still convinced maybe Kessler is an option. I don't necessarily see that, but look, with prices dropping the way that they are, maybe Ainge decides to get the pick that he can. I know the Lakers kicked the tires on Nick Claxton and had a conversation with Brooklyn about him to see what his cost would be. Still a little high right now, but maybe it comes down. And kind of so on and so forth. So, I think at the end of the day, as much as like for the sake of our own sanity, it'd be nice for all of this stuff to be figured out right now, so we could all go to bed and just look ahead to the Warriors game and have that kind of figured out. But unfortunately, um, pro sports decision makers love procrastination about as much, if not more, than college me did when it came to any of my projects or tests or anything like that I needed to study for. So it is one of those things that I would like for this to be figured out too. It would make this show probably a little bit more interesting. But all that said, being patient here, seeing just how far some of these prices drop, is kind of the right move. And that's basically what the Lakers did, by the way, with Dorian Finney-Smith. Was like, we'll wait. And it's under a first. Okay, go. Right. Like that was, that's essentially what the Lakers did there with Dorian. Luka, obviously very different situation there. They were just like, whenever Nico says yes, we will also say yes. And maybe like I see Jeezy here asking about Miles Turner. I don't see it personally, but we have also seen something like I gotta look and see what Brett tweeted out the total number of all-stars moved. Um let's see, where is it? Yeah, 8. And my colleague at Clutch Points, Brett Siegel, quote, make that 8 different all-stars traded over the span of 5 days leading up to this year's trade deadline. So maybe Turner is available or does become available. That's not the kind of thing that is going to happen a day or even a day or two before the deadline. That's the kind of thing that, if Indiana kind of recognizes shit, we're going to lose this guy for nothing. Let's see what we could possibly get for him. Then the Lakers swoop in and they see what they can turn, the one first rounder and whatever draft contracts that they need to send gets it done. There don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of room or, work to be done here, but as of right now, I'm not going to kill the Lakers for not making a trade right now, today, whatever. So, yeah, I still stand by patience being the answer. That said, I do think there is an extent to which I become impatient. Pardon me. I have done a lot of talking between radio, between podcasts, between this. I'm going to take a quick sip of, could be water. All right, so let's go with a take. Then I'm going to be very, very careful with. First and foremost, very happy Luka Doncic is a Laker. I think Rob Pelinka deserves a lot of credit for keeping Nico Harrison on the phone while Nico Harrison made the biggest mistake of his professional career. I think Rob also deserves a ton of credit for negotiating the price down so that the Lakers can still do stuff on the trade market after trading for Luka Doncic. My one concern in the way that the Lakers got Luka is that I was never very impressed with the process that we watched or that we witnessed from the Lakers over the course of the last like 5 years from, while Anthony Davis and LeBron James were teammates. They won the championship, deserve a lot of credit for winning that championship. But I thought they overreacted to a season that started like 5 business days after winning a championship and completely overreacted to Anthony Davis getting hurt in a series and losing because of that. Remember, they were up in that series, then AD got hurt, and then Phoenix kind of stomped them out and went to the finals because everybody that they played was hurt, right? So I thought the Lakers overreacted to that, traded for Russell Westbrook, like overreacted to that, and then traded for Russell Westbrook, let Alex Caruso walk, and ever since then have been supremely cautious when it comes to draft capital and the types of moves that they make. Even the Luka trade, like negotiating down from whatever it was before. And again, just credited him for doing this. So good job by Rob for getting this done and not squandering the deal. But at some point there, like Nico could have been like, hey man, you know what I'm offering you, right? Like you understand what kind of an opportunity this is, right? And then the Lakers could have squandered that, holding on to the one draft pick that they have, holding on to Austin Reeves, holding on to Dalton Connect. That still like annoying voice in the back of my head just kind of sits there and is like, do we think after being rewarded for the last 4 years with Luka Doncic that the Lakers learned some of the lessons that I would have hoped that they would learn, right? One such lesson being windows run out a lot faster than you think. And this notion that the Lakers, Rob talked about, like, what kind of a runway they have with Luka now that, they traded for a 25-year-old going on 26-year-old Luka Doncic, how much room they now have and how much runway they now have to build this out and build around him. For one thing, Luka's a free agent after next season. So, at this point, the whole loyalty thing, like, maybe out the window. He might, after next season, kind of look around and be like, all right, how can I get to the best situation where I can win? One thing I noticed over the course of the day, the San Antonio Spurs have more than enough draft capital to have gone out and traded for Kevin Durant. They also have the contracts necessary to have traded for Kevin Durant. Never heard a peep about it. Now, we never really hear a peep about the San Antonio Spurs anyway. But one possible read of that situation is that they're kind of looking at this Lakers and Luka situation after the Lakers kind of trudged through the mud and were pretty mediocre throughout, at least in the regular season, throughout the Anthony Davis and LeBron James era. The Spurs might be looking at the Lakers and look at Luka as somebody who just wants to win now and be saying, like, no, let's keep our stuff dry. Let's keep our powder dry just in case Luka looks around at how things are going there in LA and decides that's not for him. We've already seen somebody do this. Dwight Howard did this. And, for Luka, if all he wants to do is win, teaming up with Victor Wembanyama for, in a year or so from now, that's how he goes out and wins like 5 championships. That's how that looks. And if you're the Lakers, one thing you have to be really kind of nervous about, and maybe not nervous, but at least aware of, is, hey, let's really try to maximize the next 2 years, because that's the time that we know we have him. Maybe he signs an extension after this year and all is good after that. Maybe he signs even a 2-year extension after then and extends the amount of time that the Lakers know that they have him for. That'd be fantastic. I would obviously be thrilled. But this notion that, like, they can kind of take their time and see how this goes, there's no guarantee over the next few years you're ever able to give Luka a second best player on the roster as good as LeBron James is right now. And all I would argue they need is a really good center. Not even a great one. Like, Rob threw that term of championship level center. Championship level center is Anthony Davis. It's Luka. It's Nikola Jokic. It's going down the line, depending on how good the rest of the roster is. When you have LeBron and when you have Luka, the type of center that you need doesn't need to be Anthony Davis. It may not even need to be Nick Claxton. It may not even need to be Miles Turner. And I kind of think that the Lakers are kind of trying to position themselves to be able to draft that center the way that the Mavericks did with Derek Lively. But my larger point here, the take here is, while I am obviously overwhelmingly thrilled, there's a picture of Luka Doncic wearing his Laker jersey today, and I saw that, I was like, holy shit, that's not a jersey swap. Wow, we have arrived here. The Lakers are 1 game away from seeing Luka and LeBron on the court together. That's going to be incredible. While all of that is also true, I don't think the Lakers have, or I'm not comfortable with the Lakers taking their time to the extent that Rob was talking about at the presser. Maybe it's negotiation tactic. Maybe it's not wanting to give too much away. Altogether possible as well. But this notion of, like, yeah, we could just take our time, that's the way that the Lakers operated with LeBron and AD. And then they kind of waited for those guys to no longer be championship caliber as a duo. And we're like, sorry, guys, shoot. Maybe we should have invested a couple of years ago. What I don't want to do is, like, a couple of years from now, look back on right now and be like, yeah, they probably should have gone for it when they had Luka and LeBron, which also doesn't seem like that crazy a take. Hey, maybe I think when you have LeBron James capable of, like, focusing on off-ball stuff because Luka Doncic is on his team, that's a good opportunity for you to go out and win a championship. That doesn't seem like a crazy take. So I know the Lakers are and I wrote about this today, and I'll narrate it for the lowdown here in a little bit. I know the Lakers are looking at their 2031 pick, and they would prefer to attach it to, say, the expiring salaries that they'll have after the season. Gabe Vincent will be expiring at like $11.5 million. Maxi Klebo will be expiring if he's still on the roster at about $11 million. And then Rui is like 18 and some change. So it's like 39-ish million bucks in expiring contracts that the Lakers can use, all of which are very movable in their own right as well. So the Lakers, from what I'm told, would prefer to kind of attach the first rounder to that, because once they move this first rounder, they don't have another first rounder next year that they can move because of all of the picks that have already gone out in odd number years. And I get that. That's a fair explanation. But swaps, second round draft capital, or if the right opportunity comes here for a center that you can use the first rounder on, like if the Brooklyn Nets basically say, hey, Rui, Gabe, protect that first rounder, we'll take it for Nick Claxton, who's making $27 million. It's probably way too much for him. I think I'd probably take that deal. They could probably do better than that, but I would probably take that deal. He's the perfect center for what the Lakers are kind of looking for. If the Lakers could do that and send Christian Wood and get Day'Ron Sharpe on top of Nick Claxton, then I'm really over the moon for what they've done for their center spot there. If the Lakers could go out getting a Mark Williams and a Josh Green to kind of make up for potentially having to trade Rui or Gabe in that kind of a scenario, I would like that. If the Trailblazers come to their senses and realize, yeah, nobody's probably trading a first rounder for Robert Williams with his injury history and his contract, okay, then let's really jump on that opportunity as well. The bigger point here is that, like, and I haven't heard anything to indicate necessarily that the Lakers are operating sans urgency. That's not the case, or at least to the best of my understanding, that isn't the case. But I also was made a little nervous by Rob's comments and how he talked about building for the future with the 25-year-old Luka. Luka isn't your typical 25-year-old. He's ready to win right now. And by the way, you have him on a discount for the next couple of years because of when the Mavericks traded him. He's not on that super duper max that he could have been on had they traded him after he signed it. You also have Max Christie at $12 million. That's probably going to at least double after a couple years from now as well. So yeah, take advantage of the situation in front of you. And then if it doesn't work out that way, then you kind of retool and figure it out from there. All right. And again, that wasn't even necessarily like a criticism per se. It was a criticism, I think, of like the way that they handled the last few years, but I think everybody had criticism over that. Like, I don't think trading for Luka wipes out the criticism that we had over the last few years. That should still be in the back of your mind of something that the Lakers are capable of, because they aren't forced to learn from some of those mistakes. But all that said, I sincerely and truly hope that the Lakers really go for it, man. Like, the Lakers are 10 games above 500 right now. Luka's about to make his debut on Saturday. The Lakers, like Luka, one of the teams that the Lakers would be really nervous about normally in a playoff setting would be OKC, right? Because of the way that they have looked for most of the season. Luka's the one guy who has cracked that code. The Lakers have also obviously really struggled with Nikola Jokic over the years, which, okay, yeah, true. However, if the Lakers are able to space them out the way that they might be able to, and then also have the right kind of center to get into the cracks of the defense once it's spread out that way and punish them that way, that might not weirdly be as bad of a matchup for the Lakers as it was when they had Anthony Davis. And then from there, like Houston, they're young. Memphis, they're young. Oh my goodness. Here's a trade. All right. There's the urgency. All right. So the trade is wow. Whoa, that's a lot to give up. So the Lakers, according to Shams Charania, are trading Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, who has been out for personal reasons, and a 2031 unprotected first round pick and a 2030 pick swap to the Charlotte Hornets for center Mark Williams. Wow. All right. Well, a lot to process here. Let me it would be funny if I was just like, after saying all of the urgency stuff, is like, too much. Like it would be funny. It was like, whoa. Let me take a quick second here and collect my thoughts and come back to you guys. I think I really like this one. That's a lot of draft capital to give up in this case. But look, I don't think Dalton was going to play much in the postseason this year. I also don't think that. Yeah, let me collect my thoughts. Let me see if I can find something to play for you guys while I collect my thoughts. Welcome, everybody, to the Locked On Lakers podcast.
Paul George really hit the side of the backboard.
It was wide open. I can't even make sense.
Lou Williams, he said they just came together this year, as if that was an excuse, like the other team in the conference finals didn't do that.
Well, what happened was
It doesn't even matter.
You know, we didn't have time to get it together, you know? Like we just
Did he say that with like lemon pepper wings in his mouth? Is that what happened there?
You're nicking it off his
like,
fingers.
oh man, there were some absences that cost us some
I
time.
just can't quite figure
Picking
out
it out of his teeth.
why we don't have any chemistry.
It's like, Lou, in your mic'd up segment, you said 1, 2, 3 Magic City leaving the last huddle.
All right, we're gonna keep this thing going. Let's take a quick second. And to be clear,
They didn't even make the Western Conference. After all that.
all right, so the plan here, I just texted Raj. He and I are going to talk about this one. My immediate take is this is why I always say, hey, this is why I always say Lakers moves tend to come out of nowhere, right? Out of left field. Did hear that the Lakers liked Mark Williams. Didn't hear that they liked him to the extent of trading Dalton Connect, a first and a swap for him. This now means that they cannot trade a first rounder next year unless they come by a first rounder by some means next year. I don't. Here's the thing. I don't think you can overpay in this situation. Actually, Andrew Friedman had a great quote after or during this last Dodgers offseason where he was like, if you are overly logical about every move that you make, you wind up not making any moves. And I think in this case, the Lakers basically saw at least the archetype of player that they like and wanted to go out and get that kind of a player. Now, as far as, the specific player that they got, Mark Williams played 43 minutes his rookie season, then played 43 games his rookie season, 19 games in 23-24, and then so far this season he has played in 22 games so far. Now he is producing like crazy this year. 16 points per game, 9 just under 10 rebounds a game. He's averaging more than a block a game, just under a steal a game. He is shooting 59, just about 60% from the field this year, which is down from years past. Doesn't shoot threes, but he's huge. He's a huge person. He is 7'2". This is part of why he's struggled to kind of stay healthy. He's 7 foot. Well, the Basketball Reference has him listed at 7 foot. I've seen him listed as high as 7'2". That might be with or without shoes. 240 pounds. He's athletic. He gets up in the air. He is very much one of those set a pick and roll like your life depends on it to the basket kind of bigs. I'm going to be honest. I hadn't heard that this was in the works. And as Rob said, this wasn't the kind of trade that they were getting ready to make, but this is all in. I would just have hoped that they would have gone this kind of all in on a player who doesn't have that kind of injury concern. Now, look, they like Robert Williams as well. They like that Mark Williams is cheap, right? He is on, I believe, still his rookie deal. That's why you're able to get him for just Dalton Connect. The Lakers didn't want to mess with, I was told earlier today, and I wrote about this, they didn't want to mess with the rotation that they had. And I think Dalton was on the fringes of that rotation. And they basically turned a fringe rotation player into their starting center. Now you're going into every game. Your starting 5 is Luka, Austin, DFS, LeBron, and Mark Williams. Or if you want to go Rui, you can go Rui in DFS's spot. I would go DFS personally, just to help with the defense there, and then Rui can really kind of rip apart opposing benches. But yeah, like he's been good this year when he's been available. Like the problem is they've played more than 40 games and he's only been available for 22 of them. Injuries have been a real concern. His per 36 numbers are kind of sort of off the charts. 23 points per 36, 14 rebounds per 36, a few assists per 36, a full steal, and just under 2 blocks this year per 36. Offensive rating so far for the Charlotte Hornets, he's a 135 offensive rating and a 109 defensive rating. That's for a terrible Charlotte Hornets team. So, that's pretty impressive that he's able to lift a really bad Charlotte Hornets team up that way. I'm going to do more studying in terms of like the actual player and all of that stuff. I think this is a good way to put it. Omar's Hall, I think it's a good deal, a little bit of an overpay, but fuck it. They have a chance at winning a championship. The whole argument that I was making in the previous segment was if you have this kind of an opportunity, you go for it. I'm going to welcome Raj onto the stage here. Raj, my initial take is slight overpay, but if not slight, like an outright overpay.
Sure.
But I also kind of see why they would do it, and it's for a lot of the same reasons that I have argued for. So, what do you think about Mark Williams being traded for bringing in Mark Williams for Dalton Connect, the 2031 first, future swap as well, and I believe a second rounder?
My first initial reaction, Anthony, was take out Anthony Davis, take out Max Christie. This is more stuff than we just gave Dallas for Luka Doncic. I mean, we just
you can't take out.
I know you can't take out, but I'm just talking about just just a draft compensation and like young player. It hurts to let go of Dalton Connect, who just had a really really good game. But this is going for it, right? And I said on the show yesterday, whenever it was, smell the roses a little bit. And I guess we were done smelling roses because here's the center that we've been asking for, Mark Williams, I think. And I said it on the show yesterday. I thought this was the tier of player they would go get. Now, this is a little bit of a hefty price. You would think this would be a Kessler level type price, that type of guy. And obviously Kessler
wasn't available. Can I just tell, like,
no,
I've been
for sure.
People, like,
I'm just
people are like, man, could you have gotten that for Kessler? He's like, no, you couldn't.
No, you couldn't.
Especially after they went behind Danny Ainge's back and he wound up helping them get Luka. Like that those conversations weren't getting very far before that.
Sure.
And then after that, he was like, no.
right. But I think that's been the hot name, right? And I think that's the name that most Laker fans were kind of hoping for. Mark Williams is a little bit more an underrated type player, but I think he fits the profile exactly of what Pelinka said at his press conference. I think the big man we've been kind of looking for, a guy with more size. He also fits, I think, kind of the archetype that fits really well with Luka Doncic, and any big man really fits with Luka. You're going to see Jackson Hayes take a boost, but I think Mark Williams is the exact type of guy you go get. Former, I think he was a very high, maybe not lottery pick, but I think he was high pick if I remember correctly. With the Charlotte.
Go ahead. Keep talking.
Yeah, with Charlotte. Just again a lob threat, big body that you can throw in, and a guy who's better than Jackson Hayes. We'll see if they go 15th pick. Yeah, so right there in the mid first round. A talented guy. I think Charlotte just got another big that they're investing in, so it kind of make Mark Williams expendable. But yeah, I think this is the exact type of tier guy that they wanted to go for. Again, have to invest. It hurts to lose, Dalton and a first rounder. So I guess if you're giving up those type of assets, you don't want to say asset, but assets, Anthony, that kind of tells you this is your center going forward, right? I mean, if you're giving up an unprotected first round pick, this is the center you're moving forward with for a long time. This is your starting center, at least going
stay healthy. Knock on wood.
Sure, all those put to the side, like that guy's probably your starting center going into next season as well, and the guy you're kind of not building around, but kind of building with him in mind. So the Lakers got their center, it looks like, and again, it hurts to me to have to give up the first rounder you got this year with Dalton, but that was the asking price. And they obviously weren't comfortable going with the higher salary guys, and this kind of keeps your rotation in place.
So the Lakers next year won't be able to move any draft capital. I guess they'll technically get a 2032 second rounder that they can move.
Right.
With the start of a new NBA calendar year. They can move pick swaps from here on out. So one thing to kind of keep in mind is Kleba and what they can maybe move him for.
Expiring, yeah.
Yeah, like Kleba's contract and a pick swap, see what they're able to do with him. I do think now that your centers are Jackson Hayes and Mark Williams,
Mm-hmm.
you probably got to open a roster spot to convert Koloko as well. Because I don't think Christian Wood is going to play this year.
Sure.
And Kleba, I also don't believe is either going to play for the Lakers ever, but definitely not this year.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I like about Mark Williams, he's big, he's physical, like he will get in the mud and wrestle a little bit.
Right.
The
Yeah.
Lakers really haven't had that in a center
In a while.
since
Yeah.
Dwight, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of any. Trey Jemison kind of does, but he's like a two-way center, so
Sure.
I'm not really counting him. Mark will really go after him. So get after it physically. So kind of like that. He's 23 years old.
Yeah.
So he, could potentially be the center that plays with Luka for the duration of his time in LA.
Mm-hmm.
Also really importantly here, the Lakers, like I literally just in the segment prior, I think that segment aged rather well. Was like I was concerned that they maybe didn't learn lessons after the AD and LeBron era,
Okay.
and might not have the urgency necessary in like the Luka era because he is so young. Rob talked a lot about like building for the future, all of that stuff, which this move still kind of does, because
Absolutely.
he's so young. But wait, people saying that they get a roster spot. I don't think they get a roster spot out of that, right? Dalton. Oh no, they do. They moved Cam.
Oh, right. So they do open
Yeah.
up a roster spot. Yeah.
They
I
open
forgot
up
Cam's
one
in
roster
this.
spot. I think they want to, from what I've heard, they want to open up two. They want to convert Koloko eventually, and I think they want to be a factor in the buyout market. Good note there from I'm not seeing it. Sorry, yeah, MY. Thank you very much for that. But yeah, like the whole I'm not kidding, Raj. The whole last segment was like, man, I really hope that the Lakers learn from like not quite maximizing the Anthony Davis and LeBron James era and really try to maximize what is left of the LeBron James era now that he's also playing alongside Luka and really kind of go for it, right? They also have to convince Luka to stick around, show him that they are willing to build with him on whatever timeline he prefers. Look, Luka cannot go to them. Now, maybe this doesn't work out. Mark Williams doesn't stay healthy, whatever. But the one thing that Luka won't be able to go to the Lakers and say is like, yeah, you guys weren't willing to push chips into the middle of the table while I was here. They very much did that, with this trade. And I'm really happy to see that. I swear to God, maybe I should download this episode really quick, replay that segment and see what people think, because it was basically like a giant argument for the trade that they actually just made.
Right. Yeah. And also South Bay just signed a center today, which I think kind of, goes to your point. They're thinking they're going to lose, a center maybe in Koloko, going forward. I'm interested to see if this was Mark Williams, I guess, cost around the league. You really don't know. But I think it's interesting that he went for, a full first and a whole pick swap. I think also what this to me tells me, Anthony, like you mentioned, and I think I mentioned it as well, Jackson Hayes being your backup center. I think that's true. I also think we're going to see a lot of small ball. Like I think we're going to see a team that's flying around. Jackson Hayes is like the nominal backup center, but I think they're more than comfortable going with, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui, DFS lineups. I saw a funny comment. I think Carlo was asking, is he better than Lively? I was going to quickly, say no, but I'm very interested. Like, I think Luka Doncic and players of his ilk and his greatness, they boost, their partners, like in terms of pick and roll, in terms of screen game, they boost those partners to a level where I'm very interested to see. Again, Derek Lively's a great player, but I'm interested to see what he looks like without Luka. And I'd be very interested to see what Mark Williams, who is playing on a Charlotte team, and in my opinion, Anthony, one of the worst run teams in the league. I have no idea what they're doing. LaMelo Ball obviously is a brilliant talent. But their system they don't really have one. They've kind of churned through coaches. not to be mean, but a very, not a good organization to be a part of. Really interested to see you bring that level of talent because he's having an awesome year. He's averaging like 16 and 12. I think a block and a few assists. Again, you tempered those numbers because of it's in Charlotte, but interested to see what he looks like with LeBron and with Luka, and like finally a center that I think the team believes in. Right, I've said for a long time I don't think they respect this position. They were never going to go get a guy that makes 20+ million at the position. I never really saw that in terms of the way that they were speaking that Rob Pelinka has been talking about. But no, this is what everyone asked for. The Lakers went out and got, I thought, the center that they would, like, that's kind of in that tier, and they paid a hefty price for it. So Mark Williams has to work out. Like, they didn't give up nothing. They didn't just give up a second rounder. Dalton Connect was a first from this year, and they gave up a future unprotected and a pick swap. It's a good amount. They must believe in him.
Kudos also to Rob, because one of the knocks that I've had on him is that, like, he doesn't like to trade his wins. Dalton was his only win from the last offseason, right? Because they didn't do anything else. And he turned around, and with Dalton, I don't think Dalton figured into the rotation, especially in a playoff series. And you turned him into
it with Luka, though.
I think eventually, yeah. It really made me nervous that he went like a month and a half between making threes. Like, and that was the one thing he was supposed to be great at,
Wall was high. Anthony, it was a high rookie wall. It was a little higher than it.
It's a really thick wall. It was a Mark Williams sized wall.
Yes.
The one thing I'll say about Mark Williams, I said this a second ago, and I want to run this by you and let you kind of talk me down here, because the more I talk about it, the better, the higher I am on the move.
Okay.
Throughout his career, per 100 possessions, his rookie year, offensive rating 125, defensive rating 110. His second year, offensive rating 138, defensive rating 116. This year, offensive rating 135, defensive rating 109. This is in Charlotte. This is a shitty organization, like one of the worst, if not the worst, in the NBA. He is consistently on some of the worst rosters in the NBA, and he's having a positive impact consistently. Now, the pushback there is the 125 and 110 from his rookie year. That was over the course of 43 games, and only 828 total minutes. The second year, that 138 offensive rating and defensive rating of 116, that was over 19 games. And then so far this year, that 135 offensive rating and 109 defensive rating, he has played in about half of Charlotte's games to this point. So, like, again, like, availability makes me really, really nervous, but I can kind of see what the Lakers were going for. And look, I wrote this earlier today. The Lakers didn't want to mess with their rotation, and I don't think they really figured Dalton a big part of that rotation. I think their rotation right now is obviously Luka, LeBron, Austin, Rui, DFS, and I'm before this trade, Rui, DFS, Vando, and Jackson, and Gabe. That's 8 guys.
Right.
Dalton would have been like your 9th guy there. Now all of a sudden you push Jackson to your 9th guy, and Mark Williams becomes your starting center, and in a more important role because of all the wings that the Lakers have at their disposal. By the way, I don't think they're done. Like, I still think they have Kleba's contract to potentially move. They have quite a bit of room between them and the second apron, which they want to stay under, but they can sign somebody on the buyout market now that they have an open roster spot. They also can offer guys who get bought out more money because they didn't use their exception last summer. So, like, they're well positioned after this. But yeah, I think that this is Rob going for it. This is Rob doing all of the stuff that, like, drove me crazy over the last few years. Like, he actually sees, I have a top 3 player in the NBA, and my second best player is LeBron James, who in any given playoff series or any given playoff game can elevate himself to a top 5 player in the NBA. Let's go freaking get it. And you know what, man, I respect it. I was the person who was calling the Lakers cowards earlier this year in a tweet that I fired off. I said earlier this year that I don't really respect the way that the Lakers are being run. This is the kind of move where it's like, you know what? Here's the chips, man. We're
Right.
fucking going for it, and I respect it.
100%. And again, I think Mark Williams kind of fit, and not many centers fit this, right? I think we were talking the whole season, honestly, and you would mention Jonas, and I would scoff at his name, and kind of glad I don't know if you got to saw the Sacramento Kings debut of their new team tonight. They lost by around 30, I think, to the Orlando Magic. Zach LaVine looks back into a very sad position. But like you mentioned, some of the names, Miles Turner was another name. I think he just made too much. But Mark Williams is 23 years old. And I'd love to know if how much the scouting department was on this, because this is a guy it feels like they zeroed in on. Like they gave up a lot for that. Like this is not just some center they thought, for this season, and we'll see how this works. No, they're investing in Mark Williams. I mean, two first plus another one in the future. I'll be honest, I wasn't, watching Charlotte games that closely, so I'm just got a lot to do today. So I'm going to go and dive into a ton of Mark Williams film. But no, I've liked his game. I like that he's, a lob threat, and like they have LeBron and Luka on their team, and you wondered the kind of position they would take with that. Are we taking it slow? We have Luka Doncic. We can kind of play it out by the decade, and they didn't. It took 2 years for them to. When was the last time, Anthony, before Luka, they gave up an unprotected first? Been a while, right? I think the last one for in the Rush trade, they gave up a protected one to Utah, top 4. So I mean that was probably as close to unprotected. But yeah, this is a fully unprotected first going out to Charlotte for a center that they believe in, that can be a future of their team. That they probably see in that. I'd be interested to see how much. Obviously, I don't know if they would ever let this out, but how much they see him in that Walker Kessler type of like tier, if they would tier those type of players, where they would kind of put him at. But no, Mark Williams, I think, is the exact kind of fit, lob threat, big dude. Hopefully, I think his defensive numbers I got to kind of look into. Averages, I think, around a block a game, so I'll see how that kind of fares. But he's better than Jackson Hayes, and it gives them a starting center going into Luka's debut on Saturday, which is nuts. They may debut together. Who knows? But yeah, this is Rob doing what you asked for, Anthony, and doing what the fan base asked for. Let go of that first round pick, and I think they could have been well within their rights. And I know I probably share this belief solely on this pod, but I think they would have been in their rights to be like, well, let's hold on to this first rounder. We'll have more expirings this summer to kind of bolster the roster. They didn't do that. They said we're going for it this season, and here we go.
Yeah, I don't really have too many notes beyond what we've talked about already.
Yeah.
Can
I ask you a question? Let me ask you a question. Maybe I feel this way a little bit. I'm surprised they threw Dalton in this. Like Dalton and an unprotected first. I'm surprised. Like this isn't. Sorry to my guy JHS, but this is not including like JHS in a deal. Dalton has shown that he's like has maybe not, I don't know how like all-star
one NBA skill.
That's a very important NBA skill.
Maybe two.
But Dalton is a good cutter. He has athletic, he profiles as a like pretty good athlete as well. Obviously, the defensive stuff are concerning. He's an older player, but that was a guy who was contributing on a team that is 10 games over 500 as a rookie. Like that's not nothing. I'm surprised they threw Dalton in this deal. You're not for Mark Williams, and while including another first rounder in that, I'm pretty surprised that they went all in with that for Mark Williams.
Yeah, like again, I think people are thinking about things through the prism of like, Walker Kessler and what could have been then when it really couldn't have been.
Like, that was never in.
Yeah, it wasn't. He wasn't available to the Lakers.
Right.
Now, yeah, you're right to point out, that there's a world in which the Lakers told the Mavericks, no, we can't include Dalton Connect for Luka Doncic, but then turned around and traded him for Mark Williams. But also, like, that might be why, right? That might be why they included Max in that deal. beyond what the Mavericks were looking for. They could have been like, no, I think on the open market, Dalton has a little bit more value, and we'll probably be looking for trades beyond Luka to compete this year. And they made that decision. So, yeah, I see this. Look at this production on the fly. But yeah, I think it's the right idea of a move. It's definitely an overpay. But if it pays off, if Mark Williams is actually like, Dan Wonke tweeted out earlier that like the Lakers believe that his back issues are behind him. Mark Williams' back issues are behind him. Hard for me to really believe that because he's only played in half of the games so far this year. But like, if that is how this plays out, and the Lakers did just get themselves a starting center, I don't give a shit about the 2031 pick because if they just got their starting center and you have Luka and you have Austin and you have like a relatively young team around Luka right now, 2031, the Lakers are going to be good. So like the 2031 pick, I don't care. You're trading like a mid-20s pick to get a number 15 pick. A second round pick, even, I don't necessarily care. And then even a pick swap doesn't matter because the Charlotte Hornets always suck. You're probably not going to swap.
It's a pretty good bet
with the Charlotte Hornets. So like, I don't really care about all of that stuff. And I think that's part of why they probably threw the pick swap in there. Charlotte's like, Rob, we're going to need you to include a pick swap in here. Hold on one second. They think they'll be better than us. Idiots. Yeah, sure, fuckers, whatever. I draft capital wise, I can talk my way into the amount of draft capital that they gave up. The only concern here that I have potentially, and my face is red. Like, can you guys see how face my red is? This is what happens when my brain goes into overload. The only concern here is that like they gambled when they didn't necessarily have to, you know what I mean? They made the right decision trading what they did and all that stuff. Even giving up Dalton, that doesn't hurt me all that much.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a gamble. And yes, yeah. Even there, my red is very face. But like, the one concern, not complaint, not criticism, but concern, is that this is very much a gamble. And I don't know if they're necessarily in a place to gamble because they don't have any other money.
Sure. And I'm sure stories will come out. The way I'm reading this now, and I could be completely wrong, Anthony, but the way I'm reading this is Mark Williams is a guy they've targeted, right? I think when you listen to Rob yesterday, he kind of, he described the center he was looking for. And we kind of joke like he described Anthony Davis, right? We're like us. He's like young, big center, protects the rim, lob threat. But no, this is kind of the archetype of guy that he was looking at. And I never saw the Jonas Valanciunas, names as guys that he would go after. It just did not fit the ethos of the team. It just never looked like what they would go after. They wanted a young guy, it looks like, in this position, and they got it. We'll see what Mark Williams is. Again, I'm going to dive into all the film tonight in the next few hours or next few days that come out. And I'm sure stories will come out as well and look at, Charlotte games and stuff like that. But no, this is exciting. Like, the Lakers went for it. There was a chance Jackson Hayes was starting on Thursday night. Or he's still going to start Thursday night. But I mean, there was a chance Jackson Hayes was like your starting center. And I know most people wouldn't have. I would have kind of understood the decision to go that route. They did not. Went after it, went for it, gave up the draft capital that they had. Again, they're limited by the stepping rule anyway, but gave up what they could give up. They still do have a second round pick. They can, to your point, continue to make moves, continue to shift around. But I thought the main point you made, Anthony, was super clear. They did not want to mess with this rotation. They like it. They like their 8 to 9 rotation. I think to me that includes Rui Hachimura, that includes Gabe Vincent, who really stepped up and kind of fit, what JJ's been asking, for the whole season. So we'll see how it looks. But Mark Williams, welcome to LA.
Yeah, the kind of player they went after, I totally like. I really, again, if Mark Williams stays healthy, and here's the thing,
talented guy.
After you trade for Luka, and after you trade for Mark Williams, you know what the next thing the Lakers absolutely have to do this offseason is, and it won't cost them any draft capital, it won't cost them any cap space, it won't cost them anything whatsoever. You know what it is? Go out and hire the absolute best medical team money can buy. Sure. Absolute best, like ahead of the game, groundbreaking kind of stuff. Not on LinkedIn, but like talk to people around the league. Look at what teams have better injury histories than others, and then go and poach somebody from one of those teams. Offer them the world. And then when you hire like that lead doctor or something like that, then you say like, hey, you have a blank check to go out and get whatever you need to optimize our medical staff so that we keep Luka healthy and in shape, so that we keep Mark Williams healthy and in shape. And so, I mean, LeBron, I'm not really worried about because he has a proven track record of maintaining that availability. Also, by the way, not like it should be mentioned here, going for it with Mark Williams in this way, while LeBron is riding the high of holy shit, I get to play with Luka Doncic.
Right.
Remember what I said the other day, right, Raj, about like the notion of him taking less potentially this summer to give the Lakers a little bit more room. That becomes all the more important because the Lakers don't have any draft capital. So if LeBron does take less and gives them access to their full exception this year, now all of a sudden you can add another player on top of what they just did here without having to mess with draft capital there. So like this has my wheels spinning. Yeah. And what I'll say about this too is like I was talking to Jen earlier today, and she was like, dude, you do not look like you are like dragging ass to try to get to your office anymore. you look like for a while there, it was like, all right, I'll be right back. Let me go record a show really quick. I'll come right back and we'll like watch whatever show. And like she was watching me like getting ready for the show, and I was like doing notes for the show and stuff like this. And she was like, wow, I haven't seen this guy in a little while, and now this injects even more life. I don't matter. I'm not saying that like I matter in this at all, but I'm saying like, I think for LeBron, I would imagine he probably felt some of the same way. We had just talked like a week ago about how it was a stale product, right? This is very much not stale. This is a completely different way that they have operated to this point. This is a completely different way that they have treated draft capital to this point. And by the way, they have Luka Doncic. Like, it's wild. It's unbelievable the kind of night and day transformation we have seen from this organization in the matter of like 72 hours.
I was thinking while you were saying, go out and get the best medical team. I was like, is that what, Anthony? Is that like 3% of the Luka jersey sales? Like, what is the percentage of like the Luka jersey sales that would fund that? Because Luka's jerseys came out, and didn't come out, but today he took the first photos in that. That does not look real. Just does not look real at all. Looks completely fake. Looks completely Photoshop. No, this is exciting. We have a young, like, very talented guy at the center position, and obviously coming off of it, he's not Anthony Davis for sure, but when you move your all NBA guy to the guard position, I said this before, Anthony, like, I know this is a simplistic way to look at it, but we moved like our all NBA talent from the center to the guard. So really at that center position, I needed it to really be in the Max Christie tier of player, right? Just do your job, do it well. And just don't make mistakes on the floor, finish the catches that you get, just do your job on the defensive end. And I think Mark Williams, is kind of in that Max Christie tier of player. He's probably a little bit more talented as well and was drafted a lot higher, right? Was a 15th pick in the draft. Again, everything that comes out of Charlotte, you got to kind of PJ Washington came out of Charlotte and became a starting wing on a championship, not a championship team, but a finals team. Did they get someone else from Charlotte as well? I don't remember, but no, Gafford came from Washington. PJ Washington came from Charlotte, but yeah, it's exciting. We got a brand new center. We got a brand new starting franchise guard that'll be here on Saturday. I still think Jackson Hayes is a playable center. We'll see what happens in the next few hours if he's dealt or whatever. I'm not sure if he can be dealt or if he can aggregate his salary or whatever. But if they move Maxi Kleber or do any other move, but yeah, this is exciting. Our team feels a lot more balanced now, where like small ball can be to use a baseball term, like our small ball can be a pitch that we throw instead of the full pitch or whatever, our fastball or however that goes in baseball. But no, this is exciting. I'm gonna go dive into Mark Williams as soon as we get off of here. I was actually in the middle when I got your text. I was in the middle of watching like Luka versus us tape, like where he was scoring and hitting overtime threes against us. But yeah, thank you, Chad. Curveball, that's what it is. But no, I'm excited to just dive into Mark Williams and see what he is. And it's clear the front office targeted him as the guy, and they got him. It was a hefty price, a little bit an overpay, but maybe not. Mark Williams averages 16 and 10 here. Anthony, it's not an overpay. 16 and 10.
I love that the audience is like, hey, dude, you made like a non-basketball.
I know, right? Look at me doing a baseball analogy.
My goodness, Raj, a curveball.
I tried.
Analogy, Raj. Way to go, Raj.
I tried to do it.
Yeah, I think this opens up a lot of possibilities for them. I think the next kind of big that I would like to I was looking at it today, Raj, and I was like, I looked up on Spotrac Larry Nance Jr.'s contract just to see, and he's like just above where they need him to be. They can't swap Kleba for him because he would be the perfect big to throw into this rotation.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah. So someone
like
DM me
absolutely
that
perfect. Like a guy who can knock down corner threes and they can also crash and finish like crazy at the rim. He's lost some of his athleticism because of all the injuries he's had over the years, but it's still like, man, that would have been perfect. But I think he makes just too much.
Former Laker too, right? Would have really been, accepted back home. Someone DM me that too. I thought they made the exact same amount, but I guess not. Nance makes a little bit more. He's also not a center though, Anthony. I still put him in the power forward small ball center, but no, he is a kind of spacing five. I don't know what his shooting percentage is. He's taken more threes as his career has gone on, but just a solid pro, good passer as well. Yeah, he would have fit that position. But I think Mark Williams feels like a long-term solution at that position. And it's what they're going for. Looks like a guy they want to invest in that position, wants that guy to grow with Luka. So we'll see what he looks like. Derek Lively looked like, a top 10 center next to Luka Doncic. Again, I love Derek Lively. I think, that he was awesome, but excited to see what another talented big man kind of looks with our generational passers. We have LeBron and Luka as passers.
So Kleba, they aren't trading Zubats for Kleba.
That would be that'd be great. That would be great.
That'd be awesome. But that would be the kind of thing Magic Johnson would do.
The league would investigate that 100%. There's no way you're getting away with that after the Luka deal.
My last thing before we kind of move on and take a look at the super comments and as well as the a look around the league also, because it was a big day in the league. Given the assets that the Lakers used here, would they have been better spent on a different player?
Yeah, I mean, I think to the point you make is you don't know what other players were available, right? And I think if Walker Kessler was not available at all. It really cuts off all the options. And then a lot of the other centers just
Yeah, I don't think he was. I'm not worried about him.
right. And so the other centers make too much where the amount of salary you would have to give out kind of cuts into your rotation. That's already kind of thin, right? You gave up 2 starters in a deal. Obviously, you got 1 back. But your rotation was thin already. So I don't think so, at least right now. There's some debate if like maybe you just go get Miles Turner, but I don't think Miles Turner was really that available either for what the Lakers had to offer. They were never going to give 2 firsts for him, and so we'll see. But I wasn't really a big fan of Vucevic either. That was another name that was kind of thrown out. Blanking on the other center names, Jakob Poeltl. I don't think that was ever really a thing because of his salary. Nick Claxton, I never really thought as much because of his salary. So Mark Williams, I think, was kind of on that tier list that I predicted they would go after, and they did. So for a little bit, high price, but
I think I mostly agree with you. Like maybe if you really want to be annoying, right? You could say like maybe use Dalton and all of that stuff on more of a wing or like another like perimeter player or whatever. But they got a starting center. Like if this works out, again, it's a gamble. If this works out, it's a solid play. I do, however, before we move on to other stuff here in the show, and I promise we'll come back to more Mark Williams stuff, especially tomorrow too. But the plan is to still do, even despite this move. I don't know how much more the Lakers are going to do leading up to the deadline. I know that they were shopping Kleber's contract a ton over the course of the day. We'll see. They do have pick swaps still that they could possibly attach to Kleber's contract to see what they can get there. They also now have like a 9-man rotation. Now that includes Jackson Hayes, and maybe we would prefer that they don't include Jackson Hayes, and that also includes Jared Vanderbilt. And given his injury history and his playoff history, maybe we would prefer not to include Jared Vanderbilt. But there are some potential improvements they could make there. We'll see what they're able to do. But before we get to any of that stuff, and we'll do that over the course of like tomorrow leading up to the deadline, I do have the exact moment that I think JJ like told Rob, hey, I think I'm all right, with Dalton being moved. Let's see if you agree with me here. What do you think? Possible?
I don't think so. I think JJ, was living vicariously through Dalton Connect for a lot of this season.
Here's my thing. I like the idea of Dalton Connect. I think he will have like a solid, at least 6 or 7 year career ahead of him. Maybe shorter now because he's in Charlotte and they're just a terrible organization. But I had heard some stuff about how much he lacked in terms of basketball IQ. It's me being very politically correct on that front.
Sure.
And it's fine on offense if you're asking your shooter, just be like, hey man, just go like move into open spots and stuff like that. But he really lacked some of that stuff. And I think there was some frustration there. He's also like, it's so funny. The Lakers traded for a player who has been in the league now for 3 years. This is his 3rd year in the league, and he's still almost like a full year younger than Dalton. Like I don't know how much Dalton was really going to improve from here on out. And the IQ stuff, the basketball IQ stuff, really stood out. And on that play, like, look, the Lakers are a championship contender. I'm calling it now. They are a championship contender. And you don't have time to sit there and coddle a player on a play that is run for him. His whole thing is that he's supposed to be utilized as like this off-screen shooter. And you're like, hey, man, go off the screen that we're setting you up for. You're supposed to move in this play. And he's like, what? Like
I,
yeah.
I get that. I also like he's a rookie, and I have I have a lot more space for that. Even though he's an older rookie, I still and Dalton's done a lot of this season. I mean, I think it's important to remember there was a point where he was the starting shooting guard and winning us games because he was averaging like 25 in like a 2-week stretch, right? That really kept us afloat
Mhm.
through through the struggles of the team.
Absolutely Human Torch stuff. Yeah.
Right, towards the Spurs. I forgot the other teams that, he really did that too and kind of showed an offensive ceiling, which obviously he didn't hit every single night, but you kind of saw what's in there, right? And I thought again, you saw the night before where he was like moving off screens, he was cutting for athletic dunks, and I was picturing next to Luka where he would continue to get awesome shots. But wish him the best in Charlotte. That one is tough to lose Dalton through it. I didn't expect them to kind of give up Dalton for this center position. I understand it, but yeah, I'm a missed out. It was fun to kind of watch him. One of the few shooters that we've signed as like a Cole Swider was kind of walk so Dalton can run type stuff. But yeah, gonna miss watching and covering Dalton, who I thought would be here for a long time.
The one thing I will say over the course of the show, just kind of texting around, this is an example of like Mark Williams' price was way higher than this going into the last couple weeks or so. And then it dipped and it dipped and it dipped and it dipped. And it got to a point where the Lakers were kind of open to it and um and pulled the trigger once it arrived there. They technically could have waited a little bit longer, I believe, but then you're risking another team sliding in there and adding like an extra pick that the Lakers literally couldn't. So I think they pulled the trigger here. And again, I think it's a gamble. I think it can work out really, really well. If he isn't healthy, like if he doesn't stay healthy, I think the Lakers are kind of sort of screwed. But look, we'll also see what they're able to do with Maxi Kleber's contract. They also, by the way, Raj, now that they have a starting caliber center in Mark Williams, they also could theoretically just let Kleber get healthy. He's supposed to get healthy like the last week of the season, and that requires him to really ramp up quickly. And I've been told that there's like pessimism around his ability to do that, given how many injuries he has. And all of his injuries always seem like really like violent injuries. He's had some brutal ones. So maybe he'll take his time and just kind of focus on really getting healthy so that next year in his expiring contract year, he can be healthy for the duration of the season. And if that's like the conversation that the Lakers have with him, then maybe they'll go that route. They'll talk to him and they'll move him for somebody who is more available this year. But I am told like the Lakers are still very active. They are still having conversations about Kleber's contract. They're going to monitor that buyout market. They now have room to where like they can just waive Christian Wood. Like before they like it, I would say before this move and before the other moves that they've made over the course of the year, there was no point in waiving Christian Wood because they didn't have enough room to utilize that space anyway. But as you go later into the year, I think what's the cutoff mark for playoff eligibility? Is it like March?
Yeah, and if probably I think in March, first week of March.
Yeah.
I think.
So like what the Lakers could theoretically do here is just outright waive Christian, not have to attach a second rounder to get rid of open up his roster spot, convert Koloko, or if they decide to not convert Koloko, not bring him up, and see if they're able to get a buyout center to fill out that spot instead. And then I do think that they probably want to add another point of attack defender on the perimeter. Outside of that, those are very periphery things. I think, this was the central move that they needed to make to give themselves a real chance at competing for a championship. All right. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I'm interested to see if they still go after Day'Ron Sharp, right? Maybe they have like a second round to play with and see if that's a center that they still want to kind of bolster up in front of or behind whatever it is Jackson Hayes to give him another kind of bruising center to kind of fill out.
Well, they do have a second rounder. They do have a second
Right.
rounder. They gave up a pick swap.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought that they would, but yeah, that's my final. I'm interested to see if they do that. They do need another point of attack defender. I do think they're very much okay with like Vando, DFS, and Gabe kind of playing as that role, being swarming and kind of being a point of attack, defender as committee. But we'll see if they go out to get a guard. Their front court, their wings and guards are kind of full right now.
They also have, so basically like because Brooklyn doesn't want to, like, if the Lakers trade, I have to pull it up. If the Lakers trade for Day'Ron Sharpe, he makes more than the veteran minimum. So if they make that move, they would have to send out 2 minimums. Now the issue there is that they just sent out one of them in Cam. So I'm looking at it here. So let's see. Day'Ron is making, just shy of $4 million. Mm-hmm. And the Lakers just sent out Cam Reddish. So you could go Christian Wood and it would have to be Jackson Hayes. Who would you rather have on your team, Jackson Hayes or Day'Ron Sharpe?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'd rather have Jackson, but because I've been watching Jackson, but I'd be interested to see what Day'Ron Sharpe looks like. I think so, but I mean, now that you have Mark Williams, I think he kind of does what Jackson does better. So maybe you go get the more.
And he's kind of a combination of Jackson and
right, yeah,
Day'Ron.
Right,
Day'Ron's like this bruiser. So.
Right, that's what I mean. But Day'Ron's like a total bruiser, right? Just coming muck things up, and that'd be a good kind of trait to have on your team. That's interesting. But I'd like to have both.
You can't have both because the Lakers don't have the minimum contracts to do it. They just sent out Dalton and they just sent out Cam. Unless you trade Bronny, which I don't think they're going to trade out.
Is Wood not on a minimum contract?
He is. So it's Wood and it would have to be Hayes for Day'Ron.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
Because Dalton is gone and Cam is gone. So it'd be Hayes and Wood. And the problem there is that the Nets in that case will be taking on $1.5 million extra. They don't want to take on any extra money. So you would have to send one of Wood or Hayes to a different team.
Right.
And then that requires compensating that team. Now you could just send cash considerations. You could just send them, a few $100,000 or whatever to take on the remaining few months of either Christian Wood or Jackson Hayes' contract. You could literally pay the contract, for them. But, and then you would send the second rounder to Brooklyn for Sharpe. It just becomes a question of, would you rather have Jackson Hayes or Day'Ron Sharpe? I think I would rather have Day'Ron Sharpe personally.
Sure.
Because I like the physicality element of it, but I would also understand, if the Lakers decide, hey, we've seen Jackson here all year.
Right.
Also, I don't really want Jackson on my basketball team anymore because of the whole TMZ video. But I guess we aren't supposed to talk about that anymore. All right, let's save the deadline recap for another night. You and I are going to get together and break down the Golden State game, and maybe we'll talk about the rest of the deadline then. Let's go ahead. We have 12 comments. Raj, you can peace out if you want. All right. Well, we first have to, before we get into the start comments. Ryan Lucas writes, sounds like Sharpe and Boucher, not bad at all. Boucher would be interesting. I think he makes just less than Kleba, which would be interesting. He would be a very different kind of big, but it's kind of Koloko-ish. He spaces the floor a lot better than Koloko does.
Much better. Yeah.
Let me just look at Boucher's contract because I think he makes just less. Nope. Yeah. Kleba makes $11 million. Boucher makes 11 or 10.8 mil. So you can technically trade Kleba and a pick swap for Boucher if they don't get a better offer. I think they'll probably get a better offer because Boucher's contract is now they might actually prefer that Kleba's contract extends beyond this year so that you can have it as an expiry next year. Whereas Boucher, now there was some talk about potentially extending him, but if they don't plan to extend him, then you lose him for nothing. And if you trade for Kleba, you have another year to potentially get something out of that asset on top of whatever asset the Lakers send over to him. Toronto also looks like they're going to be pretty good. They're always going to be pretty good. So it's not like a Charlotte situation where like the swap doesn't matter. So if the Lakers do send that, that has more value than the one that they sent to Charlotte. So Boucher is, I guess, technically on the board as a possibility. If they do that, then you don't need Sharp. So
right.
Yeah,
I just don't see them. I don't see them doing that now that they got Mark Williams. I'd be shocked to go after Boucher now they got Williams in.
I'm probably going to start looking at guards and wings that they could get for Kleba's money. I think Caleb Martin makes less than Kleba does. And if he does, that becomes interesting. But he would have been probably a part of the trade if he did. So we'll see.
Right.
Lucas says, yeah. At 11:17, yes, Mark bleeping Williams is is when that trade went down. Hey, we're gonna have one of those moments, one of those viral. Well, maybe not viral because I was just here by myself reacting to this. But all right, Barnes writes, what's the Barnes A. Maybe they realize Connect is not the type of player they needed. Connect is a pull-up shooter. On catch and shoot, he's shooting 34%, which is bad. I think he's just a shooter. Like, I don't think he's better at catch and shoot or pull-up shooting. Yeah. I just think he's a rookie, and you have a very small sample size of both.
Exactly. He went a whole month, like you said, without hitting a shot. That's going to affect your numbers drastically. But yeah, I'm still high on his ceiling as a shooter eventually in the league.
Jason, JK Productions, Kelly, gotta be real. Hate this trade. Talk me off the ledge. Lakers overpaid. I get giving up either Dalton or the pick, but both. For one, that's not me. I didn't give myself $4.99. That I've been here the whole time. I don't know. I'm lower on Dalton. Like I just am. Like I think he has the chance to be good, but I also think he has a chance to be like Kevin Huerter, where he has one really good season and then you regret paying for him for that one good season. Or like, who's the guy? Joe Thomas? Was it Joe?
No.
Joe Thomas played for the Browns. Joe.
Pelinka, yeah, but he was on the Nets, right? You're talking about.
Yeah. The shooter who couldn't make a shot in the postseason. Right. Dalton is going to get picked on in every playoffs that he plays from now on. He's not smart enough to be a good defender. I don't know if he'll ever have that kind of a basketball IQ. So like, I've just never really been that big of a Dalton guy. So now look, like the people around the league were kind of higher on him, and maybe he had better value elsewhere, but you got a starting center. And you bought low on a starting center. Like this guy could very much like really improve.
Yeah. Also, I mean, Kevin Huerter was really good for a while. It was just, I think in Sacramento he kind of tanked. But to me, Dalton's mix of shooting and like being.
But Kevin Huerter couldn't make a jumper in the postseason for Atlanta either.
They went to the conference finals and he had a pretty good run during that. It was kind of after that, I think that run. But no, Dalton to me though, his mix of being able to shoot and being a guy who wants to dunk on you, like that's a really,
Harris,
to me Joe Harris. I think that's a combination that proves well. I think going forward, but we'll see. I'm higher on him than you are.
Look, man. If he turns into a legitimate NBA player, I could also see that, right? Like enough like super smart draft people who are like, how did this guy fall that far? So I kind of get it. I also kind of look back on the fact that the Lakers going into the draft wanted to draft a center, liked Yves Missy, and there's another guy, Tristan, I think De Silva, were the two bigs that they kind of liked in the draft. And they were anticipating drafting one of those guys. Then Dalton fell to them, and they were like, shit, we still need a center. And I
Right.
kind of think this kind of makes up for that lack of planning. It just kind of hurts because it also costs the guy that you drafted when you drafted him. So,
Mhm.
you know, I get the concern. It's a gamble. Like it's you know, that the Lakers, you know, bet almost all of their remaining chips on somebody who has back problems. Mockman, so who do you get with the open roster spot? Well, it depends on who gets bought out. As of right now, like guys who are available right now, I still like the idea of like a Markel Fultz.
Mm.
Or like, you know, if the Lakers really want more, just like sheer athleticism, Lonnie can, probably coming up close on Lonnie's deadline, actually. I think he
Yeah.
had like an early or mid-February deadline that he had to find an NBA team by.
To get out of his
And
contract.
yeah, I don't know if he has an out after, like, he might not even have one now. Dennis Smith Jr. also went abroad as well. But I like, look, over the course of the next like week or so, maybe guys get bought out. The one thing I'll say, the one disclaimer I have on the buyout market is that the new CBA, under this new CBA, like mid to late career guys found it really difficult to find any money whatsoever. And giving any kind of money back in a buyout situation, or making it so that you are now considered a veteran minimum player, a lot of guys and their agents and the people advising them are probably going to think long and hard about whether or not they actually want to take a buyout. Like, think of Gary Harris. Every year for a while, he was like, yeah, Gary's going to get bought out. It's going to get bought out. It's going to get bought out. But he never took it. And the reason
Right.
was like he keeps on getting paid above the veteran minimum. And once, you know, you basically have to prove to the rest of the league that you are worthy of investment beyond the veteran minimum once you sign any kind of a contract at the veteran minimum.
Exactly. Yeah, and I like those, names that you mentioned. We'll see if they get like Markel Fultz or Dennis Smith Jr. I think is retweeting people saying, he fit good with Luka, I guess. So trying to get himself on the team. Anthony, I'm a peace out here. I will see you tomorrow. I'm gonna go do Lakers detail. Mark Williams, Laker.
All right, say hi to Benet.
All right, I will. See y'all tomorrow.
All right, so the next one here comes from Mulan Rogue, who writes, if deal for Maxey, who is at $4 million, they are under the first apron. The only issue there is that you would have to be trading him to a team that has cap room, because you have to get within a certain amount to make a trade legal if a team is above the cap. And then that's not even counting like the Lakers. The thing that they've been running into is that because they are above the first apron, you can't take back more money in a trade than you send out, which also makes it difficult too. So, yeah, they could cut $6 million if they just trade Wood and Hayes for nothing, but then you don't have a big behind Jackson. Justin Tyndall writes, Mark Williams had 20 points and 15 boards against Jokic Saturday night. Look, he's a talented guy. And now he's also the kind of player that Jokic tends to play well against. I'd like to see how Jokic fared in that game. I'll pull that up. Saw a funny tweet from Dan saying that he's going to open up a beer and watch Nuggets Hornets just to see what he saw, or see what he can grab or grasp from that game. He's a talented center. I see what the Lakers are seeing. I'm just also very nervous. Also, it doesn't overlook the trade that the Lakers made. It's just that the guy has back problems and has struggled to stay healthy. Alex Amerling, I love it. Luka and Mark will be lethal together. According to Ramona Shelburne, Luka went to the Lakers and told him the kind of center that he's looking for. And Mark Williams, when healthy, is that exact kind of center that, Derek Lively, set a good hard screen, roll hard to the basket, jump higher than everybody, and dunk on entire cities kind of big. That's Mark Williams. Ryan Lucas again. How many picks left now? The 2 pick swaps in a second. Yep, that's right. And then Lakers Sean, can't be worse than the picks that went out for Russ. No. Yeah, this is not like by any means a Russell Westbrook trade. George Santiago writes, they have a chance to this year and more. Now let's just play. I actually like that. Like the work from a personnel standpoint, they'll probably keep a roster spot open going into the buyout market or the 10-day contract market to see what they're able to do there. But from there, their rotation is very much in place. And now it's a matter of optimizing that rotation, finding roles for everybody and making a real run at this thing, which I think they can really do. Brandon writes, literally the picks that Rob talked down Nico Harrison to remove from the Luka trade. Absolutely. Now the argument that Rob made at the time was that because he couldn't negotiate or talk to Luka's representation about what his contract status would be or his willingness to extend beyond this year might be, that's why they held out the extra first rounder or the extra second rounder, and then, let alone the pick swaps. And yeah, that wound up mattering, So again, I think Rob deserves a lot of credit for taking advantage of the situation that fell directly in his lap. Like I think both those things can be true. Whew. All right. Well, one hell of a show. Good Lord. I am going to go ahead and hop off here, edit this really quickly, throw it together, record a lowdown also, and put that in the RSS feed. The plan right now is to record for the last hour or so leading up to the deadline. See where the Lakers stand at that point. Again, I'm told that the Lakers are still active, to the best of my understanding. And then after the deadline is passed and after the buyout market is starting to come to fruition, the Lakers play the Golden State Warriors tomorrow night. Raj and I will hop on a stream after the game to talk about the game, to talk about the rotation, to talk about everything, and go ahead and enjoy the rest of our night. But wow, unbelievable. Just unbelievable turn of events. The exact kind of thing that we were kind of hoping for. So enjoy the rest of your night, everybody. Have a great one. Make somebody else's. I'm going to catch my breath, see if I can make my face less red or my red less face. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Bye, everyone.